The opening shots of a comprehensive full-court press phase on the physical battlefield have officially been fired. On April 1st, 2026, the Russian Ministry of Defense issued a definitive statement claiming total control over the Lugansk region. In reality, Russia had already occupied approximately 99% of this territory for some time, but the timing of this formal announcement is far from accidental. The manner in which the Kremlin delivered this message channeled through the Zapad, West Task Force signals that Moscow is operating with an extreme level of confidence in its current strategic posture. They are no longer just fighting a war of position, they are broadcasting their dominance to the world. This official declaration of completed control at this specific juncture carries immense symbolic weight. It functions as a definitive assertion that, despite Kiev's persistent resistance efforts, the reality on the battlefield has been decided. Immediately following the announcement, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov launched a heavy psychological warfare strike, urging President Zelensky to make a decision this very day regarding the total withdrawal of Ukrainian troops from the entire Donbas region. Peskov's pointed rhetoric, suggesting that Mr. Zelensky should have decided yesterday and must now bear the responsibility, indicates that Russia has lost all patience for frozen conflict solutions or negotiations based on current contact lines. What is most striking here is the palpable shift in attitude emanating from Washington. According to recent revelations from Zelensky, it appears that President Donald Trump has begun a radical shift in US strategic priorities toward the cauldron of the Middle East, with American amphibious readiness groups and B-52 bombers preoccupied with the Iranian front. Ukraine is finding itself relegated to a secondary concern. The reported US ultimatum stating there will be no future security guarantees for Ukraine unless Kyiv concedes the Donbas to Russia has sent a literal shockwave through the Zelensky administration. Although Secretary of State Marco Rubio has attempted to downplay the severity, framing it as a mere chronological update, the core message remains unchanged. The US is applying maximum pressure on Kyiv to end the conflict so Washington can free its hands to protect Israel and secure energy interests in the Persian Gulf. Moscow appears to have seized this golden moment with predatory precision, capitalizing on Washington's distraction between two major fronts. The ultimatum Russia delivered to Kiev via US intermediaries is crystal clear. Ukraine has exactly 60 days to withdraw its forces. If they refuse, the peace terms offered in the future will be exponentially harsher. This is no longer an empty threat on paper. Immediately after issuing the ultimatum, the Russian military proved its intent through action, launching a massive aerial bombardment featuring over 700 UAVs across the entire front line. From Lutsk and Khmelnytsky to Kryvyi Rih, the explosions served as a violent confirmation that Russia is prepared to use overwhelming fire intensity to achieve its goal of total Donbas control within the next 2 months. Looking at this landscape, we see Zelensky trapped in a truly agonizing position. On one hand, he remains steadfast in his refusal to trade sovereign territory for a fragile peace, a stance supported by a majority of his domestic population who have sacrificed so much. On the other hand, his Western allies, led by the United States, are visibly running out of patience. They are desperate to extricate themselves from this war of attrition to focus on their primary adversary, Iran. Russia's unwavering demand for total neutrality, complete demilitarization, and the legal recognition of all annexed territories puts Moscow in the catbird seat. If Kiev cannot find a sophisticated diplomatic exit ramp within the next 60 days, the remaining infrastructure of Ukraine risks being recycled under the relentless fire of thousands of Iran drones. In a poignant and deeply troubled Zoom interview with Axios, President Volodymyr Zelensky painted a picture of a world where a prolonged conflict between the US and Iran is a gift from heaven for the Kremlin, but a living nightmare for the people of Ukraine. Zelensky's logic is devastatingly simple. When the Middle East burns, global oil prices dance. To combat a global energy crisis and cool down domestic gas prices for American voters, the Trump administration has been forced to temporarily ease sanctions on Russian oil. this has inadvertently created a new bloodline, pumping directly into Moscow's energy-dependent economy. Zelensky noted bitterly that while Ukraine fights for its life, its enemy is making a killing from energy profits fueled by the chaos in Iran. These massive revenues are inevitably reinvested into the war machine in Donbass, creating a cycle of disadvantage that Kiev can no longer control. Beyond economics, Zelensky has released shocking intelligence regarding the military quid pro quo between Moscow and Tehran. He asserts that Russia is directly supporting Iran by sharing high-resolution satellite imagery of US and allied military bases in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE. This is a copy-paste scenario of the reconnaissance Russia performed prior to its own strikes on Ukraine. Furthermore, the Ukrainian side believes Russian specialists are actively training Iranian forces in combat experience, specifically the use of first-person view (FPV) drones, the very weapons that have caused such carnage on the battlefields of Eastern Europe. While the Kremlin and Foreign Minister Lavrov dismiss these claims as fake news, Zelensky remains 100% certain of this collaboration. According to him, Russia wants the Middle East war to drag on so that US attention is diverted, leading to a fatal reduction in the military aid and air defense missiles that are already dangerously scarce in Ukraine. In an interesting twist, Zelensky revealed after a recent diplomatic tour that Ukrainian military experts are now present in the Middle East, assisting countries like Saudi Arabia and Jordan in shooting down Iranian-made UAVs. Those who were forced to master the art of countering Russian drone swarms have now become the preeminent instructors for Gulf nations, teaching them how to establish multi-layered, integrated defense systems. However, in this list of regional partners, the name Israel is conspicuously absent. Zelensky did not hide his disappointment, noting that he has not spoken with Prime Minister Netanyahu in 2 years. He believes Israel is attempting a dangerous tightrope walk between Russia and Ukraine, even while Russia openly assists Israel's existential rival, Iran. What keeps the Ukrainian leader awake at night, however, is the cold pragmatism of the Trump administration. High-level meetings in Miami between Ukrainian delegations and Trump's special envoys, such as Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, have reportedly ended in stone-cold silence. Zelensky fears that once the mess in Iran is settled, Trump's team will return with a mandate of maximum pressure to force Kyiv into territorial concessions. He asked the world a haunting question: why must we pay the price for this? In his view, Washington's belief that a Ukrainian withdrawal is the only way to stop Putin is a catastrophic miscalculation that threatens the long-term security of both Kyiv and the European continent. In this global chess match, Ukraine is being pushed to the margins as its great friends become preoccupied with more immediate interests in the Middle East. When the US first began raining fire down on Iran, the scenario many expected, Russia standing as a shield for its close friend in Tehran, did not materialize. Instead, the Kremlin is content to sit back and watch its primary rival sink into a strategic quagmire, while its own hands are busy counting the money. The economic windfall of this war for Russia has been staggering. Before the conflict erupted, Russian oil exports generated roughly $135 million per day. However, with the Strait of Hormuz blockaded and Middle Eastern supply chains in total disarray, that figure has doubled, reaching a peak of $270 million per day, with Brent crude soaring past $115 per barrel. The Russian budget has essentially hit the jackpot, just as Western sanctions were supposed to be tightening the noose. The ultimate irony is that Washington itself, in a desperate bid to lower global energy prices, has had to personally facilitate the easing of sanctions to release millions of barrels of trapped Russian oil. This is a direct reversal of the financial exhaustion strategy that the US and its allies have pursued for years. President Putin has not missed the opportunity to offer a goodwill proposal. Europe can have its energy security back, provided they accept the removal of all political barriers. The message is blunt. If you want to keep your factories running and your homes warm, the sanctions must go. On the military intelligence front, Russia is playing an incredibly cunning game of barter. Their alleged sharing of satellite data regarding US troop movements in the Middle East is not just about helping a friend, it is about creating a powerful bargaining chip. Moscow is dropping heavy hints that they will stop supporting Tehran only if the US stops providing real-time battlefield intelligence to Ukraine. To Russia, the two wars in the Middle East and Eastern Europe are like two ends of a seesaw. They only need to push down on one end for the advantage on the other to shift in their favor. This conflict has also inadvertently helped Russia achieve strategic goals it could never have reached on its own. The deep divisions within NATO, with Germany and Spain openly defying US directives, is a priceless gift to the Kremlin. More importantly, every Patriot missile or integrated air defense system that the US redeploys to the Middle East to protect its bases from Iranian UAVs is a unit of hardware stripped directly out of Ukraine's hands. As Washington's priorities shift toward the Gulf, Kiev suddenly finds itself as the forgotten child on the global chessboard, while Moscow reaps the rewards with almost zero direct risk to its own borders.